Something that I think is important for everybody to remember who has dealt with narcissistic abuse is that the narcissist wanted to destroy you. The narcissist wanted to hurt you. That was their goal. That's what they set out to do. And that's what they did. And the more I think about things that went on in my past, in my life, I realize that whether you're the black sheep or the golden child, it's all set out to damage you. And to give you some examples, I need to go back once again to my own, to my own experiences. And I was triggered again on a memory that took me down a path. My wife made a comment to me about when I get out of the shower, I really don't dry off that much. I mean, I do, but she pointed out that usually when I put my shirt on, like, there's water beads, and you can see, I don't just put on on a wet body, but there are wet spots. It's like she said, you dry off so fast just to towel off. And I'm like, at first I was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, and I realized, she's right. I'm like, what is this? And I went back and I remembered. When's the last time you remember? And I remember it now very, very specifically what had happened, what had triggered it. And what had happened was I was maybe 12 or 13. And I had just taken a shower. It was a school morning, and I was the whole school routine. My father would get up first, and then I would get up, and I would take my shower, and I would go into my room and close my door, turn on the radio, listen to the radio, and kind of just sit there bundled up in the towel. And my father, I remember, comes barging in my room. What are you doing just sitting what are you doing? And I got so startled. I'm like, what? He's like, what are you just... And when my father was about to make something an issue where he was about to humiliate me or make fun of me, I could always tell in his tone. So he was coming from that sort of a tone, so I was already on like the defensive of, oh shit, where's he going with this? So I'm like, what's the problem? I'm sitting here drying off. Like, what do you need to sit there and dry off for? I'm like, I don't know, I just got up, I'm like listening, unwinding a little. And when I said unwind, he's like, you need to unwind at 7 in the morning after you just slept? Now, at this point in my life, it was every other word out of both my parents' mouth was how lazy I was, how irresponsible I was, what a miscreant I was, just lazy bum, good for nothing. So anything to call me that and then to mock me over it, they would do. So they thought by me saying like I was unwinding from a hard morning of waking up, this was a torture point for me for years, because they would continually say, oh, you're unwinding. It was like this running fucking joke. Okay? It was this running joke that they just thought it was so funny that they would just beat me over the head with it. And the reality was, and I didn't even realize it at the time, of why I would sit on the bed like that. Because, and here's the reason why. Parents had a big old house, okay? But they were cheap. They had old wooden single pane windows, and they wouldn't never turn the heat up above 60 degrees at night or up until like noon. So every morning in the winter when you wake up and literally you can see your breath because your bed's over a single pane window that is that you can't even see out of because it's literally a sheet of ice on both sides of the window. That's how cold it is in the damn house. So what you would do is you get out of a hot shower. Okay, I'd run to my room bundled up and you'd dry off because you don't want to expose yourself outside of the bathroom, which is now warm because at least you got the steam in there. You're going from a steamed up bathroom to literally about 58 degrees in the wintertime with ice on you. Couldn't even see out of the windows. There was so much ice on it. But because you're so abused and you're so conditioned, you don't even think about, well, I'm cold. You know you're cold, but you don't actually think to yourself to say, hey, I'm cold. Why don't I put the heat up? No, this is just how it is. This is just how it is. I never think, why don't I just put the heat up or tell somebody to turn the heat on? No, you just accept that there's sheets of ice on your windows, and there's no reason for it. And you can't even defend yourself while you're sitting on your bed till you're completely dry, so you don't want to expose because you don't even realize it in your own head. You subconsciously, that's why you're sitting there. But you can't even tell them that, like, hey, motherfucker, why don't you turn the goddamn heat up? You don't see there's a sheet of ice on these windows? And we can basically see our breath? And it's 1984? Like, what are you doing? No, it becomes, you can't defend yourself because you can't even think to yourself that you're cold. So you say something like, I'm just unwinding here for a minute. Or maybe you're better off for saying, preparing to have to deal with you motherfuckers. But no. That's deliberate. That's somebody going to look for a problem. Say, I'm going to take my son and humiliate him for years and years and years on end. And you're so abused, you don't even realize. That it's so cold that you got to sit there bundled up inside and you don't even realize, like, hey, dummy, you're cold. Say something that you're cold, that it's ridiculously cold in this house. No. So the point being, at that point, what I would do is I would never sit on my bed again because I was like, now there used to be, I guess, a safe zone. And once he trampled on that, like, my bed was no longer even a safe zone anymore for me. So now what I would do is I would go, run into my room, slam the door shut, basically, and start throwing my clothes on as fast as I possibly could. So at 41 years old, I'm still doing it. And I didn't even realize why. Until my wife points out, like, hey, dummy, why are you putting you, like, what's wrong with you? And now it's been wonderful. Like, I don't have to rush. There's nobody kicking in my door. Nobody's gonna, but it's things like that, When I say in these videos, you need to explore your triggers and see where they go. This is the reason why. Because I was able to my wife was able to trigger a memory, and I was able to trace it back to its origin and figure it out. And immediately correct it. Because now I understand and I saw the correlation. So when I say don't run away from your triggers, don't do it. Because, you will be able to trace it back and maybe be able to get some resolution and change something in your life for the positive. So going on, whenever I get triggered, it also, you go back to a certain time. And, it'll, one trigger leads to another trigger leads to another trigger. And this goes again to my point of this video, where narcissists do their damage to whether you're the black sheep or the golden child equally, but they're doing it deliberately. And none of this is more evident than when I think about my brother and me and what I'm about to talk about. When my brother was a kid, like I'd say from 5 until almost 11, 12, he ate nothing but fried chicken wings, tater tots, and yogurt, and TV dinners. That was his entire diet. And he was fat as shit. Little fat boy is what he was. And where would he get all that? Now, my brother being the golden child, me being the black sheep, as anybody who knows that dynamic knows, okay, the rules are different for the rules that apply to the golden child, sure as shit don't apply to you. So meanwhile, my mother used a weapon with me and wouldn't feed me and would portion control and ration all my food and wouldn't let me have anything, where I went into high school at 85 pounds. Okay? She had bought him, he had his own fryer, deep fryer, that my mother would throw in by the gallon load these fried chicken wings, tater tots, made in hot oil, burning in hot oil, French fries. This fryer-later was going all day for years and years and years, to the point where it made my brother about 100 pounds overweight when he was a kid. And I'm underweight. But here was my curse. See, there was so much grease and oil flowing through that fucking house that fryer was going, that everything smelled like a fucking McDonald's. So every time I went to school smelling like a goddamn chicken McNugget for years and years. My face started breaking out. My mother was like, oh, you just got oily skin. Like, there's oil floating through this house. You would touch the walls and there'd be oil. Now, the house would be clean, but there was this oil. There's so much oil that ran through that house. I'm surprised Exxon isn't excavating the yard right now. That's how much fucking oil went through that house in the 80s. So I'd have to go to school, and problems as it is, face broken out, fried because basically, you're living in a goddamn McDonald's at this point, because she's shoveling tater tots into Fat Boy's mouth, and he's just shoveling them in. And if he got anything other, if they tried to make him eat anything other than the fried chicken or the tater tots, he would make himself throw up at the dinner table. He threw up at the for like every night for 3 years straight. Would make himself throw up, and they let him do it. Now, if I tried that, I'd been beaten with the plate and be forced to eat my own puke, literally. The rules for one don't apply to the other, but it's equally as damaging. Now, when you're a kid, you don't realize that. All you know is, this kid can eat fried chicken, and you're getting shit on left and right. But it's just as damaging. it's just as damaging. Because he was forced to go through his childhood 100 pounds overweight, basically. Eating nothing but fried, processed foods. Disgusting. Don't tell me you don't know. Don't tell me that that's somehow a mistake or that's upbringing because they were abused. No, that's deliberate. And then you make your other son go to school smelling like a fucking McDonald's to the point where people are noticing it, making fun of it. And you go home and say, they're saying, and they laugh at you. You get laughed at. That's what you got to deal with. And there's no way you're going to tell me that your abuser was abused and they didn't know any better and they couldn't help it. Bullshit. That's deliberate. That's deliberate. And it's done deliberately to hurt you. It's done deliberately to keep you down. It's done deliberately so they can control you. Because that's what the narcissist does. That's what the narcissist does. It is many years that I noticed that before I would put on my clothes, I would smell them. And I think it was my ex-wife who would brought, like, why do you always smell the clothes as soon as they come out, or like you're searching for something? And I didn't realize it at the time. But that kind of popped into my head, that question for some reason, her asking me that years and years and years ago. I mean, back when I was in my 20s. But that's why. I used to smell them, looking for, making sure that it didn't smell like McDonald's. And you know what the funny thing is? I hate McDonald's. I've never been in a McDonald's. Since the last time I was in a McDonald's, I think I was 15 years old. I don't eat McDonald's. I don't like McDonald's. Like, when I go near McDonald's, when I see McDonald's, I get, like, edgy. And just, I hate it. I hate it. So, and it's funny, again, when you follow back the triggers, you get you get answers. And one final one that people have asked me. One of the weird questions I get a lot is, what's the deal with the lighting in my apartment? And the story with the lighting is this. I keep it as dim as I have to keep it as dim as possible. It's only even this bright when I make the videos, because I have in my I have living room attached, dining room, kitchen, and the only time I turn on any type of switch lights or bowl with hanging lamps or lights like that is when I make these videos. Other than that, everything else in my house is LED, or, believe it or not, lava lamps. And the reason why is I can't handle bright artificial lamp light. And where that starts and where that generated was, once again, my mother, being the fucking cheapskate she was, would always buy the cheapest light bulbs she could get. And they were always like these 100-watt. She would get them. They were like these 100-watt cheap bulbs, but they weren't soft light. They were hard light that she would get for I think like $1 for a gross of them. And they would literally burn your retinas out. That's how bright these fucking things were. They would literally just burn out your retinas. So then I just got this aversion. That's when I started getting migraines and headaches, and I got this aversion to bright lights. And I can't handle bright lights. I can't handle fluorescent lights. Anybody who's worked for me or who knows my offices would know my office is basically a cave, because any office I've ever had, I've knocked out all the artificial lamps, lighting, take out the fluorescents, don't even use them, and I would bring in like 1 or 2 soft lamps, and that was it. It was always very dark, and that's how I keep, my apartment. So yeah, so that was like another trigger. Like, well, how did this all start? Like, why do you sit in like this soft lighting all the time? Like, I'm fine with sunlight. Like, sunlight's great, and I like the sun. But inside artificial light, I cannot handle. So I keep my apartment lit with, lava lamps because they're very soothing, and I just like them. And I have very soft LED lights that go around and just give it a more of a ambient effect, and it's just more soothing. It helps me with my migraines. But again, those questions, I thought back, and I remember it was like just these infernal lights, because there were the cheapest light bulbs you can get, and they weren't soft lights. They were just these hard burning lights that was just like being under like a burnt out, like a spot lamp that's about to burn out when it's burning its brightest. Imagine every light bulb you have just about when it's about to burn out, when it burns the brightest. That's how every light was in that freaking house. It was just intense and burn out your retinas. So that's the story with why it's usually dim, and that's why the lighting's always so weird. But thank you for the questions, and I appreciate it. So I'm going to end the video here. Let me know what you think. Thank you for the subscribers. The channel's gone over 1,000 subscribers so far. Thank you for that. Please keep sharing my videos anywhere you like. Like and comment anywhere, anytime. My Facebook and Skype are in the description box, and feel free to chat anytime. I'm trying to get through all the emails. Got a lot going on. I am going to get to all of them, so please keep sending them. I do read them. And thanks again for all the support, and I'll talk to you all again real soon. Thanks. Bye.